The most dangerous result in medicine isn't the abnormal one. It's a falsely normal one that nobody thinks to question. I had a patient come to me after finishing chemotherapy. Her A1C came back at 4.6%, completely normal, better than normal. But her real metabolic picture was far more complicated than that single number. It's a limitation of this test that is almost never discussed, and your lab report will never flag it. So today I'll show you what the optimal A1C range actually is for cancer survivors, according to a large study. But before we get there, we need to understand exactly what A1C is measuring and why it can be misleading. I'll also share my favorite alternative test for when A1C cannot be trusted, and the anti-aging connection hiding inside your A1C that could change the way you think about your health. To understand what A1C is measuring, you first need to know about the love-hate relationship between sugars and proteins. Imagine you're in the kitchen. You heat a little oil in a pan and place a few pieces of chicken inside. Then you pour over some soy sauce with a touch of honey. The sugars in the honey are attracted to the proteins in the chicken. Think of it like someone spotting a friend across the room and running over to give him a hug. That's how sugar attaches itself to protein, and that hug turns the chicken a deep golden brown. This is the love part. A very similar process happens inside your body every time you eat carbohydrates. Inside your red blood cells, there's a protein whose job is to carry oxygen throughout your body. It's called hemoglobin. The more glucose in your blood, the more hemoglobin gets coated. And here's where the hate part begins, because once glucose bonds with a protein, it never lets go. This permanent bond is called glycation, and the percentage of glycated hemoglobin is your A1C number. So the higher your blood glucose, the more glycation occurs, and the higher your A1C. Normally, red blood cells live about 90 to 120 days. Unlike fasting blood glucose, which gives you a snapshot of this exact moment, your A1C is essentially the glucose average over the last 90 to 120 days. That's actually its biggest strength. It captures all the highs and lows across that entire window. Before we come back to Paula, my patient from the beginning of the video, a quick note. I'm a biochemist and a registered dietitian, and I'm genuinely passionate about this topic. But still, everything I share here is for educational purposes. Please always work with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. So, if an A1C below 5.7% is considered normal, Paula's A1C of 4.6% after chemotherapy wasn't a sign of excellent metabolic health. It was a side effect of anemia caused by the treatment. The chemotherapy accelerated the breakdown of red blood cells, and the new cells circulating in her system simply hadn't lived long enough to accumulate a normal amount of glycated hemoglobin. A falsely low A1C can also result from bone marrow suppression, recent surgery with blood loss, high doses of vitamin C or E, blood transfusions, and certain medications. Now let's go deeper into the love-hate relationship between glucose and protein beyond hemoglobin, because glucose doesn't only attach to hemoglobin. It can bond with a very wide range of proteins throughout the body. When glucose first binds to a protein, the bond is still unstable. But if glycation continues, those early products transform into something called advanced glycation end products, or in short, AGEs. Now, the name is almost ironic because AGEs are one of the most powerful drivers of biological aging. Think of that golden brown glaze hardening permanently onto the surface of the protein. The only difference is that it's happening in your blood, tissues, and inside your cells. These AGEs generate oxidative damage, alter protein structure, impair immune function, and disrupt enzyme activity. Let me slow down here for a moment, because this is important. You've probably heard of the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. But here's what most people don't know. Mitochondria doesn't just produce energy. They decide the fate of the cell, whether it lives or destroys itself or begins drifting toward cancer.
Glycation is a very slow process. When ages accumulate over years and the conditions for cellular repair aren't met, we age faster and mitochondrial function breaks down. Mitochondrial dysfunction is found across virtually all major cancers. The chain is straightforward. High glucose, more glycation, more ages, mitochondrial damage, impaired repair, increased cancer risk. And this is why lowering your A1C isn't just about blood sugar. It's actively protecting your mitochondria and is central to cancer prevention. Now for the question we've all been waiting for. What A1C should you actually be aiming for as a cancer survivor? A large study in BMC Public Health analyzed almost 4,500 cancer survivors representative of the US population. And what they found was a U-shaped curve. Mortality began rising above an A1C of 5.4%, not the standard 5.7 cutoff. But the left side of that same curve showed mortality also rising below 5.4%. And you might be wondering, if glycation is harmful, shouldn't we want A1C to be as low as possible? The researchers attributed this to malnutrition and cachexia, both serious risks in cancer survivors. Now here's the critical nuance. When A1C is reliable and malnutrition is not a factor, being below 5.4% isn't just safe, it's actually better, because less glycation means less damage to your proteins, including your mitochondria. If this is raising questions about your own numbers, you don't have to figure it out alone. This is what led me to create my cancer-free community on School. We explore together the science and the way you could implement the cancer-free lifestyle in your own life. So if you're someone who wants to take an active role in your health after cancer, come visit us through the link in the description below. Now back to the test itself, because there's another side of this story that is just as important. A1C can also mislead you in the opposite direction. It can look falsely high. Iron deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, and folate deficiency can all prolong red blood cell lifespan, giving hemoglobin more time exposed to the glucose and pushing A1C higher than it should be. These were a few examples how A1C can raise unnecessary alarm in people whose glucose control is actually fine. And then there's the flip side. A1C can look completely normal while real metabolic problems are already developing. One common scenario, glucose spikes shortly after a meal, then drops just as fast. Those highs and lows cancel each other out in the average, and your A1C could look fine, but your cells experience real stress from the glucose. So what other tests can give you a more complete and more reliable picture? When red blood cells can't be trusted to tell the full story, like in Paula's case, a good alternative is fructosamine test. It measures glycation of a protein with a lifespan of only about 20 days, called albumin. That gives you a clean 2 to 3 week window into your glucose control, entirely independent of what your red blood cells are doing. And my favorite is the oral glucose tolerance test, because it reveals how your body actually handles glucose after eating. It captures the spikes and impaired recovery that average out to a normal A1C. And here's what I want you to take away from this. Your A1C is a real and valuable test that has huge impact on your health. But like all stories, it can also leave things out. Getting a good result still doesn't mean there's nothing to follow up. What shifted in Paula was the questions she started asking. Not is my number in the new normal range, but does this number actually mean what I think it means? I hope that shift started for you today. And if you want to learn about another key blood test that most doctors never order, watch this video next.